is the Unlearning Podcast, a show where we will begin to disrupt, dissolve, deprogram, and dismantle what we think limits us in order to reinvent, rebirth, and revolutionize the world in our most authentic selves. My name is Christina, and I'm your host. Welcome, everyone, to the Unlearning Podcast. Today, we have a man who needs no introduction, but I'm going to give it to him anyway. Fellow podcaster, phenomenal educator, mentor, just a passionate human being, and I'm honored to be in his presence, Mr. Tedy Box. So... We just finished his show, and had a really nice talk about the stages of grief. So he's doing me a favor coming over real quick. But welcome.
It's a deep show. Welcome. How y'all doing? Yeah. How y'all doing? This episode is being brought to you by gum. Make sure you get some.
What kind of gum? Oh wait, you can't say. You can't tell.
I can tell you. It's spearmint gum.
There you go.
Sweet.
Does it have a good chew? Does it have a good chew? Yes. All right.
It's been brought to you by sweet mint gum and water. Make sure you get some.
Are you a gum connoisseur?
Depends. If I'm going, because you know how you brush your teeth in the morning, and then you eat, then you go to work. So when you go to work, I have gum in the truck, and so I'm like, let me eat some gum. So it depends on where I'm at. So if I'm on a long journey, I have some gum. I'm like, okay, I don't want to eat right now. Let me chew some gum. So
yeah. So today, just real quick, we're just going to come on and just kind of chat about our thoughts. A decision about a week ago from the Supreme Court about the ruling on affirmative action, and I'm hearing so many people talk about it from a place of, I think, panic a lot of times about this ruling, or a sense of loss, since we were just talking about grief of what this group is getting versus what this group isn't. And so I just want to take a moment to make it personal. And so to really just reflect and share experiences that we've had where either affirmative action, we've seen it show up in our lives or not. And so I just have three questions that we're just going to dive into. The first question is, this ruling, and let me start with myself first, because I'm hearing a lot of, like I said, the panic and it's about time. And, I think some ways this righteous indignation, and I don't know what it means. It doesn't stop me from living, in a sense. And maybe I'm just thinking about it differently. Because as I reflect back on my experience, I can't quite say that it's evident to me where affirmative action took place. And I think I'm hearing a narrative that's starting to surface that Black people are kind of aware that we get this, in the sense of every time we apply for something. But that's another part of a question. So my question to you is just, what does this ruling mean for you personally within your life?
Nothing.
Okay. Well, we on the same. Thank you.
I say, and let me explain, because I said it because it is what it is. It doesn't stop me from doing what I need to do, because I know who I am. Yeah. And you have to define what affirmative action is to you before they tell you what affirmative action is. If you haven't done your studies and your own research, not what someone else tells you the research is, but your own research, then how can you complain when they tell you that they're canceling something, or they're getting rid of something, or they're adding something, if you don't understand what it is?
Yeah.
So, but I understand what it is. So it won't stop me from doing. It won't stop me from running my podcast. It won't stop me from going to the store. It won't stop me from elevating in whatever I want to elevate in, because I do the work. And it won't stop me from speaking up for people I need to speak up for, because I understand the law, I understand the regulations, I understand how it works for people. It's not a Black law. how it works for people.
Yeah.
That's the important part.
Can you shed some light on that as much as you can, and that's comfortable for you? Because the narratives that I have heard um, are really as if we're, as Black people, we're the only ones who are sitting around and waiting for affirmative action to kick in everything that we do. Um, and that doesn't align to my upbringing and my lived experiences. So I'm just, and it's a narrative that's not within the Black community, but it's almost like people think we walk around with these badges saying, I got affirmative action. I don't have to be competent. I don't have to be intelligent. Like it's just a free go, which is a whole nother window if we're going to step into the space of bias. So can you just explain a little bit more from your experience?
I can. So let me talk about affirmative action. Let me break it down in terms to where people will like it and then they'll also love it. Because I like to tell the truth, and from my perspective, that is. So affirmative action to Black people is what white people will call white privilege.
Mm.
How I see it. And if you really look at it, it's our Black privilege. It's just called affirmative action. But the difference is one race does something with theirs. We want people to do something with ours so we can do something with it.
Ooh.
So you're more mad at people doing other things, excelling, than you are when you're not doing anything because you want people to give things to you. And don't be looking at me listening to this podcast like, oh, he think he's better than the next person. No, I'm not. I'm just telling you exactly how it is because we
Yeah.
wait and you get mad at people that excel inside of our race, but you don't try to help people inside of your race. When someone does something, then we all of a sudden want to pull them down. Uh, I'm gonna bring. I can bring up several people. You know what? This is going to give you ratings. Let me use R. Kelly.
Okay.
The Black race banded against R. Kelly to bring him down.
Yeah.
They put him in jail. They said he did this. They said he did that. Okay, if he's guilty, okay. But they didn't take Elvis stuff off the shelf. They went and supported his movie. They didn't
Yep.
take Jerry Lee Lewis stuff off the shelf. They went and supported his movie. They didn't take a lot of other people's stuff off the shelf. They went and supported their movies. So all of a sudden they're quiet when it comes to other people's affirmative action on things that they've done.
Yeah.
But you put that man in jail, it's like you use your one voice for that one shot. Now he's locked up. You did the same thing against Bill Cosby. And these are just two people that I'm mentioning.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, let me mention some others. What's the guy name that just filmed the Marvel movie?
I know who you're talking. Yeah.
All of a sudden, he's in lawsuit, said he's against something. You see how this success works? And then, and you know what? Let's take it out of the Black culture. The guy that filmed the other Black Panther, Namor, he's in the same kind of problems. So there's none of these problems when they don't have this money, but all of a sudden, when they get to a certain level, it's all of a sudden okay for people to want to step in and bring them down.
Yeah.
It's been happening. It happened with Malcolm X, it happened with Martin Luther King, it happened with Sam Cooke, it happened with a lot of people. There's always been that person there to bring you down inside of your race. So with affirmative action, there's also people inside of affirmative action that does the dirt.
Yeah.
That's your own people. So from my perspective, from the years I've lived, I know people are pointing fingers at, I'm going to refer to him as CT.
Yeah, you
know who CT is.
Yes, I know.
I know that people are pointing fingers at CT, but there's been just as many people that are dirty, more dirty than CT, that look like CT,
right,
that live in your house.
So we have to, I think, go. It's time for us as a community, and in the past, a lot of the voices that were ushering the Black community into a different place and space are no longer with us. that was not by accident. That was very much intentional. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but I feel like Juneteenth kind of set the whole thing off for me. That first of all, I just don't understand. It's ridiculous. I don't. That's a whole nother the topic. But there's a video I had on Facebook like years ago when this came out during George Floyd that I just didn't understand the ridiculousness of an outside group telling us who we are. We can only be slaves. So black people asking for reparations, you're gonna give Juneteenth. And you're gonna use some people to do it. And it was like, when will we as a people, and that's the key word, we're not a people the way that other groups are a people.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we have had traumas that have happened to us where things have left, that have not left us intact. But when will we say that we don't need this anymore? So I have colleagues who are just, affirmative action, the opportunities are gone. And it's like, nah, that has never stopped black people before. It's actually when we've had those challenges, we go back in history, there have been ways that we have surpassed, but we kept it with us. And we are the only group that feels like we need validation from other people, knowing good and well mentally they're never going to give it to us.
Nope.
So why we keep going to we keep going back to the abuser, hoping they're going to change, and they never will change the way we feel like they need to. And so whenever we get certain things like this, we feel like we need to hold on to it because that's all we could get.
We want to
And
be affirmed from the people that are doing the actions to us.
yes,
I'll put it like
yes,
that. We
yeah,
want to be.
I
We
like
want
that.
affirmation from the ones that are doing the action to us, and we don't look at we're the ones holding ourselves back. We've always been the
Hmm.
ones holding ourselves back.
Yeah.
Uh, we don't like success inside of our own. We criticize other people. If you look at the uh, Latino community, the Asian community, they all stay together inside of their community
Hmm.
and make money
Yeah.
inside of their community. Where's ours?
Yeah.
And who's the reason why we don't have that? It's us. It's not them. It's us. But as long as we have the opportunity to say, they did it, they did this, they did that,
Hmm.
then we're holding ourselves back
Yes.
because we don't look in the mirror.
And I remember during George Floyd, and this was on somewhere on social media. It was a speech by Dr. Cornel West, and he talked about the self actualization of. He was talking about it, I think, in the context of the black man, but I heard it differently because self actualization is coming into yourself and who you really are. And so the question I started posing to myself was, and all I'm seeing in our community, have we as black people individually and collectively actually reached that space, which he was saying that we have not. And that's why we look at things through the perspective of which we look for others to do for us. Because self-actualization is coming into who you are and growing up. But we have not done that work because there's other things in play, the trauma of the experiences that we have gone through. But once I heard him say that, that's what really helped me to open my eyes and start unlearning, is that I need to reach self-actualization. So it don't matter about all these other outside groups and entities. And now I see how it shows up when we're not there. How do we get there as a people together? So to the point that if they keep making decisions, which they're doing, they're making the decisions, then we're going to be okay regardless. And we're not sitting here panicking about what we've lost. Like something within us can be, okay, well, here's how we need to move. We just move different. Black people move different every day.
Yeah. I want to know why we're mad. Not just and not just say because, but I want want each one of all your listeners, all my listeners, I want you to really answer that question. Why are you mad? What are you mad at? When you figure out why are you mad, then ask what are you mad at? Are you mad because they're making decisions, or are you mad because you're not part of the decisions that's being made? So then that goes back to, do you go vote? Because those people are in office because they were voted there. So now you get to the root of the problem. Like, did you vote them in there? No, I didn't go vote. Okay, so now you should be mad because you didn't put them in office. You didn't put that person in office, and you had a chance to make a decision that put those people in office that make those decisions for the country because they're voted into those seats. So now, why are you mad? What else are you mad about? That's been solved. So a lot of times we don't want to actually say what we're mad about because we don't know.
And that's what I was going to say. I don't think we know. And I think it's such a trauma response. Like you said, that in it, we're looking to be affirmed by someone else's action, which keeps us passive rather than us collectively saying, how can we just take action for ourselves and affirm what we need to affirm with one another? So the anger comes from, I should be angry because this is all I've got. It's that lack mindset. This is all we're going to get, which is why we're in 2023 and another group of people could say it's okay for you to celebrate being enslaved, which all of us were not. And then the fact that half of the people who were enslaved got the memo after the other group, a little bit too late. That's actually what we're celebrating when we celebrate, in my opinion, Juneteenth. Because Black people outside of that have their own communities and celebrations. So why do I need you to tell me it's okay to celebrate something during Juneteenth? That's just my opinion. But to bring that over to this ruling, it's again looking for an outside group to tell us which way to go and how we should feel about it.
So let's talk about, if we can, slavery, as you've mentioned it several times. I don't think a lot of people realize that there were Black slave owners. And I know when I say that, people will be like, he throwing out fake facts. No. Now let's go back to Africa. There were some kings, Black kings, that turned their people over to be slaves. Or how do you think they became slaves if they weren't giving some of them over for the people to come in to take over some of their property, because they was giving some of their people up to be slaves? But that's neither here or there. That's not affirmative action, or is it? So when did affirmative action really start? Is it when they gave it a name, or when you actually knew when it was beginning to start?
I love when people make that case of Black people were slaves. The difference between white slave ownership and Black slave ownership were that slaves did not, that was the first time in history that Black people were actually treated as chattel, as property. So I love when people come back and say, but Black people had slaves, but those slaves operated differently than what we had in America. So I agree with you that we need to go back and we need to look at the accuracy of history. And I think we also need to put it in its proper context, that those slaves, even by Black owners, were still humanized and valued as human beings, where that didn't happen on United States soil. So it is, in my opinion, too different in the way that people were treated. And for people to also bring up the argument, it's so funny because when I think slavery, we have to start somewhere. So when we look at affirmative action and we're asking, well, why was this happening? The reason that it originally happened was because there was a recognition. Who was it? Lyndon Johnson? I'm not good with history, y'all, so please forgive me.
Kennedy was about to put it into motion, and then he got assassinated. I'm reading JFK's book right about now. It's like 29 hours. The audio book goes all the way from before he was born to, I haven't got there yet, but I'm like on chapter 2. So I do a lot of reading. That's just where my education comes from. So she's saying Lyndon B. Johnson. So he had no, that's what I'm saying. This brings me up to what I'm reading right now, which is the JFK novel. So it's all my reading is not just about Black history. He's part of that too. So it's
that's a whole nother topic because Black history is American history.
Yeah, it's
It
history.
is.
Why don't
It's
say Black
history.
history? It's history.
So that's a again, kind of given these symbolism. And Dr. Claude Anderson talks a lot about the symbolism that keeps Black people duped because we're, oh, we got a whole month, but that's American history. Everything that happens on American territory is American history.
I celebrate all year.
There you go.
That's
Black
why.
Friday. Wait.
Yeah, I'm
So
against that.
I
I'm against.
celebrate Black Friday all year. I don't have to wait.
Well, I'm
Anyway,
against calling it Black Friday. Why is it called Black Friday? Why are we not fussing because they call it Black Friday or Black Monday or Black Tuesday? Why are we not fussing about that? Because we like shopping.
right.
It's something that's beneficial that we like doing. So we're not fussing about that, but you're
Mm-mm.
fussing about other things. But you're not fussing about that. That's a label that's still detrimental to us because
Yes.
we're called Black people. So let's fuss
And
about that. Take that
if
title away.
we talk about the history, which is another whole thing, because there were, quote unquote, I'm going to say original people, melanated people on this territory before we got all of the what is it now? 5 different names. We're like the only group of people that have had names that have ebbed and flowed.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's just a new way to call us the N word. That's what I said. But I'm ahead of my time too, so I always say things that's ahead of my time, and then
Well,
when it comes out,
it's that, and it's a way to keep you always questioning who you are. It's a way
so
to keep you don't know who you are because it keeps changing. And
well,
then whenever
when I
we give
take those
something a name,
forms, when you do those forms that tell you are you
yeah,
African American, Native American, I check other
uh-huh,
because I'm all of that,
all of that.
and then they
And
can't.
that's how so my second question was, how has it impacted you? um I can't say how because I didn't go to a primarily white institution. I went to an HBCU and I support HBCUs. They're not perfect, but
No,
I support HBCUs in what they bring in a sense of community. And you seeing Black people are not a monolith. So being able to see the spectrum of Blackness in its beauty. Now, I told my daughter, I will not fund a PWI. You go into an HBCU, we will find one that fits for you, but I'm not supporting because I know what your experience can be. I'm not going to say it's always that way, but I know what it can be. And I want you to know first and foremost that it doesn't always have to be that way. That doesn't always have to be your world looking from the outside.
it's true. HBCUs aren't perfect, but neither are regular colleges.
Right.
And if you are fussing about people talking down on HBCUs, what do you actually do? This is not talking to you, but this is talking to the listeners. Ask
Mm-hmm.
yourself, what do you actually do for an HBCU besides do you go to the games? Some of you may go to the games. Do you write your cable provider next to HBCUs be put on TV? Because they have
Mm-hmm.
home games, they have away games, and they
Yeah.
also have classics. During a certain part of the year, they have classics that come on TV. It comes on
Mm-hmm.
CBS, and the stadiums
Yeah.
are empty. Stadiums are empty. So
Mm-hmm.
why aren't you going to these HBCU games if you love them so much? I don't even
Or
see some of the alumni there. So
do you help to fund them?
yeah, so
Right. So,
there's
um,
there's at least one HBCU college in each state. At least one.
I haven't found one in Colorado.
Colorado State's not HBCU. Most schools that say state is HBCU.
On the east and the south.
Hmm.
Mm-mm. I've looked. So, so my daughter, she's about to be she'll be a 10th grader, and I'm pulling her out for homeschooling, and so I'm like, Aiden, we're gonna take a tour. We're gonna take an HBCU tour. Um, and we looked. I said, we'll start in Colorado first. I can't find one. The
It's
closest one is Texas. Nearest ones are in Texas.
Oh, that is correct.
Oh no, I've been to the campuses. I could tell you.
It's some in Arizona, right?
Is
And
there?
I think it's one in Utah. I was surprised there was one in Utah. I think
Um,
it's not many in your area. I'll put it like that.
no, no,
That's why
no. There are not many in the West.
that's why I said
Um,
it's at least one in
because
each state.
historically looking at those HBCUs, they were started because of blacks not being able to attend predominantly white institutions. And so they started in those areas. Well, Jim Crow and all of that puts us in the South up to the East Coast. I'm trying to remember. I think there are a few in the Midwest, but they're heavily from Texas all the way uh, up through Maryland, Virginia.
Because I looked at a list a few years ago of historically black colleges. Just so y'all know, that's what that means.
Mm-hmm.
Historically black colleges, uh, and it's more than I expected. So it's
Mm-hmm. So I graduated from Xavier University of Louisiana, not Chicago. So that one's an HBCU. And our motto was there are 146 HBCUs, only one is Catholic. There are 100 and I think 15 Catholic universities, only one is an HBCU. So there aren't that many HBCUs.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can start a new one.
I definitely would.
You can start a new one.
I definitely, I think we need more of them. Not my whole learning experience was different. It was completely different.
I think it
And I
needs to
made
be.
that decision early on in high school because I got tired of seeing what I was seeing in my learning environments. And I said, I want to be seen, valued, heard. And if I'm going to compete, air quotes, if I'm going to compete, I want to compete against my own because I want to see what's out there for as far as we are as a people. And that was an amazing experience for me because I got to see the spectrum of what blackness was and how that was celebrated and seen differently. And so after that, it was like, PWI where? I had an opportunity to transfer. I was like, nope, I'm gonna stay here. I'm gonna
Ain't
stay here.
Dion gonna turn Colorado into a HBCU?
Walking in them streets, yeah. Well,
He can
I'd
turn
like to see
Colorado into
that one.
an HBCU. So
I'd like to see how that happens. I remember going to see you for a conference, and I honestly was counting on my hand how many, not just black people, just people of color that I saw, and I think maybe three.
he's made a big change since he's been there. People
Yeah,
won't give him credit, but since he's been there, it's a totally different place since
yeah,
he's been there. Period. And so you uh, you have to clap your back and pat him on the back because he's brought a big change to
yeah.
Colorado.
Um,
Uh, the university period and just that environment. I want to go visit just because he there. So just all the places he talking about he done ate at and visited. So
yeah. Shout out to Boulder.
yeah,
I mean, I like going there. It was when I came here, it was very much a culture shock because from going from the South, and like I said before, going from New Orleans, which was very diverse, like New Orleans is one of those few spots in the US where you have so many cultures, you have a new culture that forms. And so it's all appreciated. And so it was hard for me to wrap my brain around what culture looked like in different parts of the country. And so then I went from one chocolate city to another. I went from New Orleans to Atlanta. And that was interesting. And then went back home to New Orleans and then came out to Denver. And it was a huge culture shock. A huge culture shock. Uh because I honestly, and I've shared this with other people, like I've never seen that many white people in a space being white. Like I had never seen that many in my lifetime.
Do you think that's
So
affirmative action at its worst, at its best?
as far as coming out here,
Yeah, coming from the South and then coming to see where it's not a lot of uh, AA actually in work as far as
it,
people goes.
to be honest, well, Denver has about 10% black population. When I got here, and I think it's just tribal that everyone connects with like people. So I don't find it wrong that communities based on race kind of hang out, and it's a tribal, it's an instinctual thing. So when I got here, it was, where are all the black people? Like where's the neighborhood where black people are? And people were, it was, I like to call the black people here Denver different, because they don't
Denver different.
Denver different because they don't operate, the mindset is not as collective as you would find in the South and East Coast. Like, so if you were here or where you are, and I go to you, and we kind of share that universal unspoken about, because what we're looking for is it safe? Is it cool to be me here?
Yep.
And just a look will say, oh, we good. I never got that here. I got it from people from the Midwest or from the South, like people from Chicago who came from Florida or something like that. But actual Denver, because Denver, it's really very individualism. And so that is the cultural, everybody kind of assimilates with that. And black people have done that. And I got a lot of, well, black people here had other opportunities and weren't slaves in that sense of like in the South. And it was almost like looking down on the South. We're not those kind of blacks. And it was like, what? Like I had to have someone else from Denver explain to me the black culture that is here and
It's like
how it operates.
it's like Africans, from what I've been told, Africans look at Americans like, oh, you're not African.
Yeah.
You're American. You're the American type. So yeah, you're not
Yeah.
Africans. And so
Yeah.
it's that's why the Americans, black people, that's why we said we have no home, because we go back to Africa, like they say, go back to Africa. We get over there and they're like, oh no, you're not the African. You're not that. No, you're not that.
Yeah.
So it's that's the same. It's you go from the Denver blacks looked at the South like, oh no, that's not our
Yeah.
type.
Like you were slaves.
Yeah, no,
We were able to have property.
no,
That's
we're
kind of,
yeah.
and it was like, wow. And so that feeling like black people would have your back here is not, I've not felt that. And others I've talked to have not felt that.
It's interesting though because the ones in Denver that have property, you don't know anything about them unless you go to Denver. But all the ones that was mostly slaves, you know all about them. So the history books eliminated the ones that were not slaves,
Mm-hmm.
and it kept stories of the ones that they held captive.
Mm-hmm.
So which one did you really want to be? The one that was free or the one that was held captive? Because
Mm-hmm.
the story only talked about one.
Yeah.
And that's why I came up with this saying, quote, or whatever you want to call it, is the reason they didn't want us to know how to read and write is because they didn't want our story to be told, which
Yeah.
makes it hard to be researched.
Mm-hmm.
Because I didn't know that there were blacks in Denver that had all that property. I knew there was blacks in Oklahoma because
Yeah.
I did the story over Black Wall Street and see how much money that they had during that time frame before they set it afire. And
Yeah.
so it's like 6 families that had their own planes. And I'm like, man, who are those 6 families? And I'm gonna call names out. Why haven't 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson, Jay-Z, all these people that have their own companies done
Mm-hmm.
stories over these 6 black families, because they don't have to worry about Hollywood telling them no because you have your own companies.
Yeah.
So why haven't you told us these stories yet?
Yeah.
So why haven't you told me these stories about these families in Denver? Why haven't I got stories about Bass Reeves? Affirmative
Mm-hmm.
action doesn't stop you from telling me those stories.
Right.
you stop yourself. It goes back to what I said. You stopping yourself from telling those stories because you're worried about how they're looking at you.
Yeah.
Tell those stories to your own people, but in front of your own people, you're giving this nice little speech.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, you're not showing it. Okay, you're
Yeah.
giving jobs, but where are these stories? I mean, tell these stories. You have more power than I do.
Yeah.
So tell us these stories. You can do more
And
digging.
tell us the stories and find out. Like, I was thinking about it one day, and say what you will about Egypt, it's on the continent of Africa, right? You don't have Romanologists, you don't have Greekologists, you have
Nope.
Egyptologists. Why?
Because
Why
they
is there only that?
want to keep that story.
Mm-hmm.
They want to keep
So
the story because Egypt has to deal with biblical texts. So if
yes,
you keep the Egyptologists, then you're dealing with the way that you can guide the biblical texts.
and build right,
So
and build the story of how you see yourself. But I think that's another topic of going back to a lot of our traditions that we may not be aware of because we've been conditioned to live in this particular environment. But oral traditions meant something, and the power of oral traditions. Like both of our podcasts, we have people on who tell their stories.
yep.
That's a way of capturing oral traditions, and insights, and through media that, social media, that helps to keep that story going. But if we just expect and we wait for people to tell us what our story is, we're always going to be duped. We're always going to be
You're going to be lost in the
lied
sauce,
to,
as they say.
all of it.
And as you're lost
Um,
in the sauce, you're stuck in the pot getting cooked.
right, right, right.
We're talking about
Um,
Africa. I got my next show, episode 57, is called "The Shortest War," and it talks. It's about it. It's in Africa. It's about the
mm,
creation of Tanzania. So
ah,
quick, quick,
nice.
quick promo right there.
That's what I was about to say. As we come to a close,
Promo right there.
I think I am gonna make these some juicy little clips. Um, what you got going on? Where can we find you? All that good stuff.
Uh, you can find me over at my podcast is everywhere. It's called Hell I Don't Know Podcast. And be on the lookout for my new sports podcast where I do all sports, not just the particular special teams. And I do have my special teams, all Chicago teams, but I give them the business too. On my sports podcast, I do keep it real. It should be out in August time frame. But on my podcast, I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want, and I run from like an August to June time frame.
Mm.
It was pushed around this year because, as Ms. Jones know, I had surgery. So when I had surgery, it pushed things around. But other than that, I talk about anything from. I don't talk about politics. This is the one thing I don't talk about. But I talk about anything from love to history to religion to self help. I talk about it all because conversations can go hell. I don't know, but you can also email me at. Excuse me. I keep saying at. I don't know why I keep saying at first. You can email me tedyism@gmail.com. Social media Tedyism. Look it up. Tedyism. That's me. And this episode is being brought to you by water.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's paying the bills for us. Not really, but it's paying the bills for us. It's quick published by water. I'm free to do episodes for anybody who needs the episode done. I will be free to sit in. I do have conversations. I say that because a lot of times in the podcast world, we talk to people, but we don't talk back to people. So
Yeah.
I have conversations where we conversate. And I say we because me and whoever is on, we talk to each other. And it makes it such a better show. And I do not edit. I record it and then I post. I keep
Mm-hmm.
it real.
Yeah.
I
Because
keep it real.
that's the
So,
beauty of a conversation. You don't go back and I had someone
so
ask me that, for you want to take out all these ums, and I was like, why? I say when I'm talking to people. Like it's fine.
now
You
I
do
will. I say I do not edit, but I will when I'm listening to it. If it's that now, we do have what's called dead space to where
Yeah.
like right now where if me and Miss Jones are talking, and then it's just like a dead space where neither one of us is saying nothing, and then all of a sudden it's like um hmm. Then we'll take that out. But
Yeah.
if we're just in the middle of conversation, then you're like let me say it like this, then we're not taking that out. But uh, when I say I don't edit the full podcast, but I take out what's called dead space, and that dead
Yeah.
space is those times where there's no conversation. But that dead space can also be used for if we have like a episode where you record an hour, and that dead space is like right in the middle. Use it for your break. That's your quick
Hmm.
note. That's your
Yeah.
quick.
See, he always chalked with like words of wisdom and quick tips. Pro
Yep.
tip.
I do what I can.
Um, you also do guest speaking, right?
I do. I do. If you need me for guest speaking pro bono, of course, reach out to me at that link also, or you can also let Miss Christina know. She will let me know, and I will let you know my availability. It can be done via social media. What's it called? I can zoom in. Yeah, I can zoom in, or I can hit one of the links that I have and do it that way. Or if it meets my schedule time limit, I can fly out to you. Of course, you're going to pay for that. I can fly out
Okay.
to you.
Yes.
Yeah, you paying for
That's
that
a
too.
whole contractual thing that they'll
Yeah,
be reaching out to you for. And of
I'm more
course,
than willing to come to you if
there
it
you
meets.
go. So let's get Mr. Teddy blessed, booked, and busy, right? And of course, all of his information is going to be in the description box. Thank you for this quick chat. We'll figure out how we're gonna put this out there. But thank you all again, and until next time, God bless. Bye.